We move on to another game in non-traditional SEC country, but just one of the greatest scenes in all of college football. Let's go to the Texas State Fair for the Red River Shootout. That's how it will always be known on this show. Political correctness be damned. So, Red River Shootout, Oklahoma, Texas, number 6 Oklahoma, taking on Texas, fresh off the loss at Florida. They're still 2.5-point favorites in this one. A little bit of series history before we jump in. Oklahoma's won 7 of the last 10, 3 of the last 5. Texas did, of course, blow them out of the water 34-3 last year. That was not a pretty sight for the Oklahoma Sooners. They just couldn't do anything on the ground or through the air against that Texas defense last year. But this is a different Texas team. Much has been made about that. I'm sure if you're listening to this show, you've heard the discourse about the Texas Longhorns. You've heard it from us. You've heard it from the college football public at large. The biggest question on everybody's mind is, what is wrong with Texas? Why are they not living up to that number 1 AP preseason ranking and just the hype machine that we were all sold going into the season? Of course, Arch Manning's a big part of that. The offensive line is a big part of that. So many new players all over the field. But as they come into this game, obviously it's right there on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. This is the latest into a season without a Power 4 win for Texas since 2015. That was the year they fired Charlie Strong, if you remember. So it's not it's not looking good, or the year before they fired Charlie Strong, I should say. It's not just that it's been a poor start. It's been like historically bad for Texas, the way that they performed in these big games. I don't think it's exaggerating to say that. And at the same time, Oklahoma comes into this game with a lot of questions of their own. Of course, John Mateer, he's very questionable. Brent Venables said after the game on Saturday that he didn't think he was going to play. Steve Sarkisian said today that that's probably a little gamesmanship. We got our report on the ground from the tortilla presser of the Tulsa World fame now. Shout out to the Tulsa World newspaper that covered that story. But we have our report on the ground that he is going to play. So we'll take that for whatever it's worth. So many questions. And I think the question that everybody's forgetting for Oklahoma is they really haven't figured out a way to run the football without John Mateer against good opponents. Yes, they ran the heck out of it against Kent State. Yes, they did it against Temple when they were up in Temple. But against good opponents, they've not found a way to consistently get production on the ground outside of John Mateer. And for me, that makes me concerned that this game offensively might set the game of football back 20 years, Garrett. I'm expecting between the two defenses, the offensive lines that are both struggling, it's a terrible matchup for both offensive lines. I think we get a defensive slugfest in this one, regardless of who's playing quarterback for Oklahoma. And it's just going to be a knockdown, drag-out street fight in the trenches there.
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's regardless of who plays quarterback. It's
okay.
I think the quarterback is actually a fairly important piece here. And look, shocking breaking news: the quarterback's important in the game of football. Okay, it's here I am with the hard hitting analysis. But look, first thing that I would ask a lot of people is, what is the reason to pick Texas right now? I'm picking Oklahoma to win this game. I don't think that there's a lot of reason you can pick Texas to win this game right now, based on where they are as a program. The vibes are bad in Austin. It's just not good. Sark, seemingly making excuses today in the press conference, just doesn't necessarily look like a team that is moving the right direction. So you got to take that first. Okay, now I think the formula for Texas to win anything in the back part of the season is entirely just it all came together suddenly, right? That has to be the Texas formula for victory at any point. I don't trust that really happening right now. I think that's the problem for me is I don't trust that right now Texas has the locker room culture, the personnel coaching, whatever it is that's wrong with Texas. We could point to a myriad of things I think at this moment, but whatever the problem is, I just don't trust it to get fixed right now. There's a chance that it could all come together, and then we're talking about Texas maybe making a late season run, coming from behind. Can 9-3 at the end of the season find their way in, right? Something like that. I just don't see that happening. For me, though, on the Oklahoma side, because this is where I actually think it gets a lot more interesting. If Mateer plays and if Mateer doesn't play, I think ends up telling the story of this game. If Mateer plays in this game, it should not be close. I think that he is extremely dynamic. He's motivated. Texas defense got a little bit exposed against Florida, especially getting beat at the line of scrimmage. Like they were getting beat off the ball several times. And I think that the other thing that was kind of shocking to me was they were losing in man coverage frequently. They were getting beat just by Florida's dudes. The big question for me is, does OU have those dudes, right? I'm not necessarily super impressed with what their wide receiver core is. I think probably Isaiah Satania is my best option right now to try to be a dude and just go down there and beat guys one-on-one. If he can do that, he's about to have a Red River masterpiece that's just talked about for the next decade, right? He has the ability to do that if he can find a way to be that dynamic difference maker. And if he can, again, I don't think that this game's particularly close. I think that we could see a little bit of revenge for last year on the Oklahoma side. If Mateer doesn't play, I still think I trust the Oklahoma defense to do enough. The issue right now with Arch Manning is a lot to be debated, right? If you're talking to me, it looks like he's slow at processing things. A lot of people want to blame the offensive line. Regardless of what it is, Oklahoma sacked Jackson Arnold 10 times, 5 of them based on protection and 5 of them based on coverage and holding the ball too long. I don't care what your reason is. There's a lot of reasons to think that Arch is getting hit in this game frequently. I just don't think I see anything from Texas right now that can really move it on this Oklahoma defense. They didn't even really run the ball against Florida last week. I think they had like 9 yards between their running backs, or like 11 yards or something like that. It was not very many yards in the running back room from them. We talk about Oklahoma not running the ball very well. I'd point you right back at the Texas Longhorns, and I believe that a guy like Trey Wisner can get going. We just didn't see it last week, so maybe he's not quite 100%. Maybe he'll be better this week. The problem is when, Oklahoma played Auburn, Auburn was a threat to run the football, and they hit some big plays over the top. If you're asking me, do I think Texas can do that right now? Not consistently. I really don't. Right now, I think this is a clear Oklahoma victory. I think if Hawkins is the quarterback, it's probably like a touchdown or so. If it's Mateer, it's lights out. It's going to be, make your way to the lines for the fried pickles and the fried butter and the fried, Oreos or whatever else. A little bit early, Texas fans, because it may not be pretty.
That is the bright side of playing this game at the historic Cotton Bowl, because even if your team loses, you get to go out and have a funnel cake afterwards. Like that's the best possible scenario if you lose.
And then the downside is leaving the fair and trying to get back to your car.
That is true. And yep. And they're playing it a little later this year. So if you're going to this game,
if this game goes to overtime, it might get dangerous.
Yeah, that's right.
Head on a swivel, Texas and OU fans.
So Texas is, dealing with some injuries of their own, right? Malik Muhammad missed that game last week. They're banged up in the running back room, like you mentioned. Trey Wisner only got 8 carries, I think, last week. It was less than 10. And he wasn't able to do a lot with them because of the health issues, like you mentioned. So CJ Baxter, of course, is still very questionable at this point, probably going to miss some more time, it looks like. So, yeah, I mean, there's injury questions on both sides, but I think you nailed it with the fact that Oklahoma is used to playing the types of games that I think this is going to turn into. And I think Oklahoma's comfortable with a defensive-minded head coach in Brent Venables playing the type of game that this is probably going to turn into. If this is a defensive, lower-scoring game, even if Oklahoma looks like they're in control of it, that's kind of how they played against Michigan and Auburn. It's been low-scoring, just enough big plays to kind of keep the other team at arm's length, and you get home and you're very happy with a win. Texas does not, and has not, under Steve Sarkisian, been comfortable in a game like that consistently. If it's not going to plan out of the gate, it's really hard for Texas to come back and find a way to win. Sark has not had a great record in one-score games. He hasn't had a great record in lower-scoring games. They kind of have to hit off the top for it to be everything clicking for the rest of the game. So with all that being said, it's 2.5 on the screen here. I actually just looked it up. It's up to 3.5 as we're recording this in favor of Texas. If you're giving me 3.5 points, a full field goal and a hook, give me OU all day, plus the 3.5. I think that it is going to get a little dicey if it's Michael Hawkins. I just can't get the image of him against that Texas defensive line out of my head from last year. I know there's a lot of new guys up there, but I think that if Hawkins plays, we might be in for like a 15-12 type situation. If Mateer plays, I do agree that there's going to be a little bit more breathing room for Oklahoma. we'll keep it tracked on our Twitter feed all week. We'll be consulting with as many Chipotle tortilla pressers as we can get our hands on sources. We'll keep you updated on that. But I do like Oklahoma in this game. A little bit of history lesson on the spread too, Garrett. If it's been an extended spread in favor of Texas, it's been a blowout for Texas in recent years. If it's been close either way, OU has won outright. So Vegas has kind of nailed this game over the past decade or so, where they've really had a good read on it. So if I'm reading the tea leaves here, this feels like in Oklahoma, if it backs the trends, Oklahoma is going to win this game outright. I like the scenarios here of this being a lower scoring game. So give me OU plus the 3.5.
Yeah, I think this is. I mean, look, this is one of the best games of the year. Always, like, it doesn't matter how good the teams are. This game's always fun to watch. So there's a lot of that factors into it. I think the if you're a Texas fan who's screaming at us and they're in their comments right now, I think the thing that you can hang your hat on is this is still a team that could put it all together, and this is still a team that if they put it all together, they're good enough to play with anybody. It's just a fact that we haven't seen it, right? We just haven't seen that. You need your offensive line to gel yesterday, right? You need them to gel 3 weeks ago. They need to be a lot better, and you really got to get something going in the run game too. I think, honestly, Texas' path to victory here is probably a lot of just winning in the run game and keeping Oklahoma on the sidelines.
But Sark doesn't want to run. It's crazy.
He doesn't.
And I know they've had the injuries in the running game and running back room, and that's a big part of it. But you still have talented dudes there. Well, and Arch Manning improvising has been their entire run game this year. And that just can't happen at the University of Texas.
It's just confusing as well because for me, they have the talent running. They don't want to pin their ears back, or they don't want to put themselves in a position where the defense can pin their ears back and go get Arch. You want to try to set them up with some play action. You want to try to set them up with some quick hitters or a clean pocket or something. You got to run the football. And also, I mean, look around college football. Some of the most successful offenses the last several years have done it running, power zone out of the spread and just being able to, find their spots, run hard downhill, and then, kind of run and shoot a little bit. I don't know why the refusal is here. They've done it a little bit in the past, and they did a really good job running the football last year, and that was a lot of why they were successful. Why, where is the run? I know that they got guys hurt, but, I thought that they recruited really well. I thought that there were talented guys in this backfield. Where are they, right? Where are these guys that we were told about?
Well, if you're a Texas fan that still believes, let us know why your team's going to win. If you're an OU fan that's willing to put your neck out there without knowing about John Mateer, let us know as well.